and potential customers, if you want to put it like that.
Hmm.
Which I hate, which is like one of those weird things. I hate thinking about it that way. It's like, and that's like an honest thing. It's like, it feels really weird to think that way. And so I actually try not to. And I just stumbled on it because I didn't like that I was going to say it, and I said it anyway.
Yep.
But it's, these are friends of mine that like similar things to me. And I want to make sure that when they finally, eat the dinner I made for them, that they enjoy it. And so if I
Mm.
don't ask questions about the spices they like, or what kind of noodles they like, or whatever it might be in this weird food that I'm suddenly creating, like, it won't be as good and they won't like it.
Mm.
And they may have, they may speak in, angry ways or subtle ways or whatever. But if you don't listen to basically everything that's being said, then you're sort of, you're not respecting the community, because you're not believing that what they're telling you is, it's, no one's going to come into a post and just outright lie about how they feel about a thing. They may be like more positive, but like they're going to say like, oh, what if it was like this? I mean, that's probably because they're not feeling super good about a thing, right?
Mm.
They want a little, there's something wrong, that somebody's not coming across to them. It really, I think to me, a lot of it comes to, as I'm like kind of stumbling around this topic, it comes to feedback, and the community is going to give you really good feedback. And if you don't listen to them and don't respond and don't change or show change, they're gonna engage less, because they're, why give this feedback if nothing's going to happen? But it also, I mean, when people feel a part of something, then they're more likely to tell friends about it or talk about it, outside of just your posts and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I even, I go, there's a bunch of kind of YouTubers that have followed the game and like the game, and I go hang out on their Twitches sometimes and just listen to what they're talking about for games that they like while I work. And, I'm trying to be there for them like they're being there for me. And then there becomes a mutual respect. And, when I, like, one of them, Indie Gamer, who I gave the demo to early, like, gave me a ton of really good feedback before the demo came out that I was able to fix before, because like no one else had seen it. And we had been talking enough that I felt good about sending it to them. And it's just this, like, you just have to treat them like friends,
Mm.
or like, colleagues or whatever it is, and believe the stuff they say. There's just so much to be gained there. And I think when people don't do that, the games are usually going to be worse, and the community will be less active because you're not interacting with them.
Yeah. No, and I think that's a perfect way of saying it. And again, like, and it's not to say that, hey, I need to, do everything these people are saying or highly consider or whatever. It's more of just, I think at the end of the day, and this is how it is, I would suspect with all communities, is the reason why a community is formed in the first place is because they want to be a part of something as a whole, or there's some gap, and being a part of something, and part of that is just listening, but being acknowledged. Because and that's where, and I think that's the strength of a community as well too, is like we're here because we're, for whatever the reason, but being acknowledged, being heard and stuff, it doesn't mean you're gonna do it all because that's usually impossible. And if you can, great, but just to acknowledge it. And yeah, I think it was a great way of saying how some people might miss those types of opportunities by simply whatever their reason is, and whether it's intended or not, just to be aware of it for sure, and do what you can to address it.
Yeah, totally. And, almost every piece of feedback, even if they say, I wish, the fire was more red, like you should interpret all of those things. You need to translate them, because usually if someone's saying like, oh, this doesn't feel very powerful, it doesn't mean that you have to give it more damage points. It
Right.
can mean 1,000 things. And so you should believe what they say, and then translate it into what your game probably is missing or has too much of.
And if you have the time, like you mentioned earlier, like when someone gives a response, be like, oh, why this response?
Yes.
Because otherwise it's like, again, it goes back to what we were saying before, like, oh, your guess is as good as anyone else's as far as what they meant, like, make it more powerful. Like, and again, that could be an animation, that could be an effect, that could be like increasing the power amount. Like, that could be any number of things that could be the reason for them to feel that way when they're playing the game.
Exactly. Yeah, totally.
Sweet. All right. As we start to wrap up, I want to go over some lessons learned here. And I'm just curious, have you ever made any mistakes with creating awareness that served as a valuable lesson to help springboard future initiatives?
No, I don't think I've made any major mistakes. Nothing where I was like, oh gosh, I wish I had never done that or anything like that. I've definitely made, I've tried the post where I say like, dark dungeon goblins are on the attack, kind of language.
Yep.
And I just see the response to those being so much different than other ones. And so I definitely have through, like I've said already, lots of experimenting, honed in on ways to speak. But luckily so far, I don't think I've blundered at all.
Okay.
Fingers crossed. Yeah.
So, and part of the reason why I figured I'd say that, because one, I think if you did have any major ones, it could be a really good learning experience for people. But two, within context of what we were discussing today, I mean, it's just to show that like you just went out there and did it, and even when things didn't work accordingly, you were able to learn and move forward from it. Just try basically to help, because I thought that type of question would be good to help kind of like take out the fear, because we always have a fear of putting ourselves out there, right? Whether it's us personally, our games, whatever it may be. So I love that response, because it just really showcases that it's like, okay, yeah, it could be a little discouraging putting yourself out there, and but at the same time, you don't really have much to worry about. As you mentioned.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're doing it a lot, then you can't fail, because it's all practice,
Right.
Even when something goes really bad, that you probably get the most information out of that compared to something that does pretty well. So you just have to keep doing it. Yep. Just don't be mean or any of that stuff, and you should be fine.
Right. Because that could definitely go in a wrong direction quick.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right, and then with marketing in general, like as a whole, even for you and even outside of our conversation, what would you suggest is the best approach and mindset to have?
I think the best approach is to try to create good. I mean, we talked about it. Good content, even if that's an image, or a quick GIF. It's all about, is this interesting by itself? Does it have appeal? Does it look nice? Like, never just putting content out to put content out. You have to make good stuff, because, people watching these things don't owe you anything. Yeah, I know it's free and it takes half a second, but it matters, because, you don't like every single post you see. And so you want to always be providing something interesting for people. Like, I'm trying to eventually sell this game I'm working on, but what I'm actually doing is I'm a content creator, and I want all of my content to be fun, and I want all my content to be liked by people. And I just happen to be selling a game at the end of the road. Right. If I was just being a content creator, there wouldn't be any different thing that I'm doing right now, other than not having an end point. I would just be, making good content every time. And I think if you start to let it kind of slacken off, then you're going to lose people and stuff like that. It's because you're not showing good quality. So it's like, oh, well, it's inconsistent. Maybe I don't want to be here and watch this all the time. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So one approach would definitely be, putting out good content. Are there any others that you think would be good?
I think consistency is really important. That seems to be a trend just generally with like content makers, is like I post stuff Saturday mornings, so people are ready to see it and they're more likely to see it because they're looking for it. I think training yourself to be consistent and to keep pushing past when all you're getting is one like is super important. Every time I hit a new milestone, that the current numbers I'm getting feel small because now it's like, okay, I've been doing this for a while. Like, shouldn't I have, I don't know, 3 times any likes per video or whatever? Yeah. It's like, that's fine. That's like a great ambition, but you can't stop, because the second you stop, that's all gone. So there's a bit of like personal training in there too.
It's like weight loss in some ways. Like when you hit
totally.
that plateau, you got to figure out a way to keep going. Just don't stop.
Yeah, I mean, it's game development in a nutshell, in a way too. I mean,
weight loss.
Weight loss.
Cool.
Yeah,
well, one thing I'm going to underscore too is from what I got from all this and what we talked about too is, that authenticity factor for sure, as far as like being I mean, we discussed it enough clearly that taking that initial approach, and again highlighting the fact that with your approach with just about everything that you do is very authentic, has clearly favored you well, and I don't see why it wouldn't favor anybody else taking that approach as well.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree.
Awesome. Well, yeah, definitely thank you so much for providing basically the that quick summary of good approaches and initially tips that people can take is creating good content, and having that level of consistency and keep going with it. Right? Don't just because things get stagnant or whatever doesn't mean that it won't produce any more results for you. And then finally, just be genuine and authentic with your approach, with your marketing and stuff. Because if you're not, it's probably not going to be representative of who you want to be, and it's probably can honestly just turn people off. So again, thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
All right, so that pretty much wraps it up for us today. But before we leave, again, please tell us, share us any other details that you would like about Song of Iron. Do you have a website? How can people reach out to you if they want to contact you? All that jazz.
Yeah, there's a website, songofiron.com. It's got links to pretty much anywhere you would need to find me. My big place that I post most often is Twitter. There's pretty much a Saturday post, and I love talking to people about the game. So you can message me there, or I have a Discord also, which can be found on the website. And we're working on that, but it's a great place to talk more in depth about the game, give feedback, or ask questions and stuff like that. And I love chatting with people there. I started the YouTube videos and demos because I like talking about games and game design. And so if people want to come and talk about mine, that's great. Or other ones, that's great too. It's super fun. The game's coming again on Steam and Xbox. You can wishlist it right now if you want. And hopefully not too long to go before it comes out, if everything keeps going well.
Awesome. Well, Joe, thank you for sharing all those details. And again, it was great to have you, and loved the insight that you shared with us today.
Thank you very much. That was a lot of fun.
Hey, everyone, and thank you for listening to another episode of Indie Game Movement. I'm Andrew Pappas, your host, and the show's producer is Mustafa Price. A special thanks to Taisuke Kimura for creating the show's theme, and Donnie Wilson for the logo design. If you enjoy and value the content, you can support us by visiting our Patreon, which is patreon.com/IGM podcast, and select the tier that meets your needs. Show notes for this episode can be found by visiting rengenmarketing.com/the number of this episode. Rengen Marketing is a consulting marketing company that helps indie devs with their marketing efforts. So if you're looking for helpful marketing content or marketing plan template for your current game, then please visit rengenmarketing.com. And as always, thanks for being such great listeners, and we'll see you next time on Indie Game Movement.